ain't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, the Blerd Without Fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, so today's video, we're gonna be talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 5. And this issue is the one that, well, I'll be honest with you, you're not really gonna get any turtle action in this. This is largely an issue that is meant to set up one of our new villains in the series, and that is Hieronymus Hale. We've been seeing a lot of this character as of late. We saw him in the first issue where it was largely a focus on Raph and how he was doing a bid, and it was all, as far as we were concerned, self-inflicted, but he was using this as an opportunity to investigate some shenanigans going on inside of the prison. And as it turns out, Hale was the new kid on the block. He was the new hotness in the streets. We knew he was connected with the Foot Clan, but we didn't really know how. And when we open up this issue, he is basically putting his Foot Clan connections front and center in front of the entire city of New York, having introduced a new police task force called the Foot Patrol. What is effectively a gang of police officers who look like Cobra operatives and very obviously look like bad guys. And Hale is using them to put his foot down on the city of New York, but more specifically, one particular category of people, mutants. Now, I would forgive you if you didn't know exactly what was going on here. If you're wondering why Hale is going hard in the paint against mutants, aren't the turtles supposed to be like a virtual non-entity in New York? No, that is not the case. Yes, when we start off with the initial 150 issues of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the turtles are pretty much kept a secret. Humanity does not at large know about mutants, but as that 150 issues progressed, roughly about the time that you get to around issue 100, it is pretty much public knowledge that mutants are a thing, considering that a large portion of New York got turned into mutants. It's why there is no longer 5 boroughs of New York. There are now 6. And that 6th one is called Mutant Town. It is pretty much the area of the city. It's the borough of New York where mutants predominantly live. And while mutants have stepped outside of that borough and begun living semi-normal lives in the other 5 boroughs of New York, Mutant Town is predominantly where most mutants are. And Hale, he ain't a fan of them. As a matter of fact, I would dare say Hale would be right at home in the X-Men, corner of the Marvel Comics universe. If that were a thing, like, Hale would be the guy who is basically the Senator Kelly of yesteryear. Like, you're not ally Senator Kelly, but mutant-hating Senator Kelly. But Hale takes it a step further, and we get to know a great deal about his character. We also get to spend a little bit of time with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan favorite Casey Jones, who has largely been MIA in the series up to this point. Since the original 150 issue run, he basically just kind of disappeared into obscurity. I'm pretty sure there was a good reason for it, and I think that Sophie Campbell had a lot of characters to juggle by that point, considering that she had literally inherited an entire city full of mutants. I would actually dare say over the course of that series, while Casey Jones wasn't large and in charge, Casey went from being the leader of the Purple Dragons to falling in with his dad, the Hun, who was already problematic, already used to beat the brakes off of Casey on the regular, and both emotionally and physically abused him and manipulated him to the point that Casey started acting almost just like him. And then with the Hun biting the bullet later on in the series, it sent Casey into a spiral. He started acting out, he became way more aggressive, he started losing himself to his violent urges and tendencies, and he even kind of fell into a bout of alcoholism at one point, and him and April were on the rocks, and their relationship was virtually non-existent to the point that he ended up leaving New York and hanging out with Karai and the Foot Clan. He actually found a way to channel his violent urges, and it was something that he really desperately needed because, at least from a character perspective, he was already on the verge of becoming almost more like the animated series version of Casey Jones that seemed more like a psychopath than an actual, hero of justice, or any kind of a vigilante. He seemed like a crazed individual more than anything else. And you could kind of see that he was slipping into that, but he ultimately ended up not going in that direction. I'm pretty sure that's an aborted story arc by all, stretches of the imagination. But here he's back because Karai is, in a lot of ways, helped rehabilitate him and help him find who he truly was, and gave him structure and even allowed him to get those violent urges out in a more controlled environment, working for her. Somewhere between now and the untold destiny of the Foot Clan, we've seen Casey Jones pop up in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Nation spinoff series, but there's really nothing there that is implied why he has left Karai's side. As a matter of fact, in the most recent issue of Mutant Nation, issue number 2, he is still working alongside her. He's even helping Bebop, Rocksteady, and Karai with an interrogation, is what is teased at the end of that issue. So we don't really know exactly why Casey Jones is back, why he doesn't seem to be in on the loop of what Karai is doing, which, to be fair, I think it's safe to say we know what Karai is up to. She is, for all intents and purposes, preparing to unleash what is probably going to be some massive level of Foot Clan magic, something that she has obtained mastery over during the Untold Destiny of the Foot Clan miniseries. So we have that to look forward to. But Casey Jones gets to hang out in this issue. He gets to go up against Hell and learn firsthand. Hell, he might be a short, chubby little fucker, but he's about that life. Anyway, let's get into the more spoilery aspects of this book. And so to talk about D.A. Hell, who is he? Why does he hate mutants? Well, as it turns out, D.A. Hell is basically an incel. Like, the way he describes himself, the way he talks about how, he was never bullied in high school. It was more specifically that no one paid him any attention. He was largely invisible to everyone. No one even saw him to bully him. So he spent most of his youth being ignored by the world at large, and the only people really giving him the time of day being his parents. And I could imagine that that would lead to someone becoming a very bitter individual, and much like how incels tend to be in real life, they usually are very angry at the world for treating them the way they feel they have been treated. And while sometimes it is not always their fault, more often than not, it actually is. Going down the rabbit hole with Hale, we discover that this guy had problematic views probably even before he turned into a whole mega chud. The way he goes off about how all mutants are freaks, and that because of the mutagen bomb that everyone treats mutants like they didn't have a choice in becoming mutants, and that everyone's tripping over themselves to make excuses for their existence, and that no mutant should be proud to be what they are, it kind of lets you know this guy, he's problematic. Like not just problematic, this guy is a toxic level of problematic. I would even go as far as to say weapons grade incel levels of chud toxicity in this guy. But on the flip side of things, he used this as a motivator. He used his hatred and disdain of other, I guess what you would call normal people, even though technically he's normal himself, but just everyday other average people. He hated them so much for ignoring him that he used this as fuel to motivate himself. This is how he ended up steamrolling his way through the rest of his high school and college career, getting through law school, and ultimately plowing his way to becoming a district attorney of New York. And he has lorded his power over the people who work for him. But it's his interaction I mentioned earlier, where he's going off about mutants in a bar, where he ends up being drugged outside by Bebop and Rocksteady. Now, we gotta remember, Bebop and Rocksteady work for Karai and have for quite some time, for almost, I would dare say, the majority of all of the Ninja Turtle comics at IDW. Now, with that being said, beating the sweet tea out of D.A. Hale first, they bring him to Karai, and it's here where we discover how and why Hale is working with the Foot Clan. It's not even exactly that he wants to. He actually recognizes the Foot Clan as being criminals. So he's aware that working with them is not a morally sound thing to do. However, Karai has tricked him into working with them because, as I mentioned earlier, Hale's parents were the only people who ever gave him the time of day. They loved him. They loved him implicitly, and regardless of whatever flaws he may or may not have had back then, they literally thought that the sun shined out of his ass. But unfortunately for Hale, they were killed after old Hobbs set off the mutagen bomb in TMNT number 99. What followed after was that a mutant, supposedly a mutant, killed his parents, and Karai claims to have the mutant in question in custody and offers Hale an opportunity to kill that mutant. Unfortunately for Hale, this is a trick. We don't know whether or not this mutant actually unalived Hale's parents, but what we do know is that while he's reluctant to do anything to this mutant at first, it's once Karai sets that mutant free, giving both of them an opportunity to reach for a cudgel to bludgeon one or the other with, that's when Hale is activated and actually tries to kill the mutant himself, flying into a tirade of violence. And it's here where we realize that this was by design. Karai wanted this to happen so that she could record him and use it as blackmail. This is why Hale works with her. Now, as she says, she doesn't want him to do anything illegal. She wants him to become mayor, and that is exactly what Hale aimed to do. Hale is using this power now to, once again, put the Foot Patrol, basically Foot Clan ninjas, in police SWAT gear, and he's allowing them to run roughshod over the city. And these very same Foot Clan ninjas are going specifically after mutants with impunity, going out of their way to target them as opposed to targeting any other normal people. The political and social commentary here is on point. I'm here for it because, and while I'm not really ever the fondest of inhuman creatures being stand-ins for minorities, the energy is still no less sound. The fact that mutants are being over-policed and brutalized by police officers who are under the guise of trying to clean up the streets, this is IRL like a motherfucker, just minus the turtles being involved. You just replace mutants with minorities. All that said, the return of Casey Jones is both happy and sad because Casey Jones runs afoul of this DA Hale, and it's bad news for him because while Casey is a bad mamma jamma, he's able to fight off these Foot Clan ninjas. He's trained with the Foot Clan. He knows how they fight by now, and he even was able to hang with them even before Karai trained him in the Foot Clan ways. But now he knows even better how to fight against them, but Hale offers him an opportunity that Casey Jones almost can't refuse, and that's a one-on-one showdown between himself and Hale. Now, when I saw this playing out, I knew exactly what was coming. I knew that Hale was not going to let Casey off easy. Hale gives Casey Jones the same opportunity that Karai gave him. He lays a cudgel down on the floor, and he tells Casey he's more than free to go for it, that none of the Foot Clan ninjas are going to do anything to him or stop him, and that he and Hale are going to fight to the death, and that no matter what happens, Casey will not be held accountable for it. Now, when a guy like Hale, a guy who is a bureaucrat, a politician, a lawyer, a district attorney, someone who clearly does not get their hands dirty very often, lays out this kind of a deal, you already know which way it's going to go. You already know this is a guy who's probably already thought 10, 20, maybe even 100 chess moves ahead. And that's exactly what happens. Well, Casey is too busy thinking about what his next move is going to be. After he gets his hands on that cudgel, Hale has already pulled the blicky out, and he lays Casey down. Whether Casey is dead is another story after that, but I have a sneaking suspicion he's not dead. I think he'll probably just wish he was dead. Casey's already had some near-death experiences in the previous Ninja Turtles comics. He damn near lost his life during the City Fall event, and is largely the reason why Leonardo got captured and brainwashed by the Foot Clan in a lot of respects. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think Casey's done, but he's definitely in hot water. And the Turtles are going to be too, because we already know that while Hale is operating with the Foot Clan, every single attack that we have seen on the Turtles in the past 4 issues was Hale. Hale was the one who sent those Foot Clan ninjas after them, not Karai. It's been made pretty clear Karai is already preoccupied with other things. We already know that she has completed total mastery of Foot Clan magic, as what happened about towards the end of the Untold Destiny of the Foot Clan. So we know that she is got bigger fish to fry than messing with the turtles. While she definitely wants to take them out of the game, if she really wanted to, she would just go do it herself. Hale is the one who's going after them. The attacks on Raph in the prison, the attacks on Mikey in his condo, the attacks on Leonardo while he's hanging out in India, and the attacks on Donatello when he's at that weird-ass mutant preserve where humans pay to kill mutants. All of that was Hieronymus Hale.